Howdy everybody, it's Ben and/or Bookish Bear, and today I'm going to talk about something that I'm pretty excited to talk about because it's something I'm really passionate about, which is music and books and how they work together. So I listen to music when I read most of the time because I am very easily distracted. So the music works as like a mental buffer for me. So if I am reading and my thoughts start to wander off, usually they'll wander off to the music that I'm listening to, which is then a cue for me to be like, oh, get back to reading. So that's the main thing that I use music for, is just that sort of mental buffer for myself to not lose focus on the book that I'm reading, and that tends to work for me. I listen to a lot of rap music. That's sort of my biggest go-to for the past few years or so. I usually can't listen to that when I read because all the words, it pulls the focus away from the book to listen to the lyrics. So unless it's something I know really, really well, I can't really listen to it when I read. So most of the stuff that I talk about in regards to listening while reading is probably going to be not that stuff. So when I do read and listen to music, I sort of get obsessive about the music fitting the book, seeing the tone of the book, just music that really seems to have the same feel. And so I want to find stuff that really fits with the book, and they go together and sync up really well and have the same feel and tone. So if it's a really scary book, then I'm going to want something kind of dark and menacing to listen to while I read. If it's a light kind of read, then I'm going to want something sort of airy and light, and something that's more kind of acoustic and chill. If I'm reading a woman author, I tend to listen to music by women. If I'm reading a person of color, then I'm probably going to listen to something that's relative to where they come from or who they are. But that's not always true. I don't know. But I just really like the book and music to fit. And if it doesn't fit, they don't go together, then I'm going to find something else to listen to. Sometimes they become so ingrained, and the albums that I listen to while reading a book, that story, that book, and that album, they just get fused together in my brain and they're linked forever. There are a few cases where this is true, and I can't think of one without the other. And I couldn't imagine reading the book or rereading the book without that album and without listening to it. So the first time that this happened, this is what I'm going to talk about. The first time that this happened was when I was reading Requiem for a Dream. So I don't have a physical copy of Requiem for a Dream. I don't know what happened to mine, but I was looking for it, and I don't have it anymore. So Requiem for a Dream is this pretty intense look at drug habit, drug culture, and addiction. Seen the movie, it's like that times 10. It's a difficult book because the way it's written, punctuation wise, and all that stuff is different, just very different. He doesn't use quotation marks for when people speak, so you just have to learn who speaks what way, and that's how you know who's talking. So it can be a difficult read, at least for the first few pages or so, until you kind of get into the rhythm. But it's a really good book. So the album for me that's forever going to be linked to that book. As far as I'm concerned, this is the most perfect pairing of a book and an album that will ever exist. And if there's another one, please let me know. But it is the First Strokes album. Is this it? When I read Requiem for a Dream, I was listening to this album for the first time, and I stole a burned CD from my brother. So all the tracks were not in the correct order. And I believe there were some like B-sides and stuff on it as well. It did have New York City Cops, so anyone who knows about the history of this album, which is a great album, and I'm obsessed with it. It's always going to be one of those albums that I always go back to and always enjoy listening to. It was released with a song called New York City Cops, the chorus of which is New York City Cops, they ain't too smart, which was taken off of the album release, and it was re-released with this cover after 9/11 because they felt like that was kind of a jerk thing to do after 9/11, and their support of first responders. So New York City Cops was taken off the album. So a lot of albums don't have that song on it. Mine did, and it was just this CD. Like I said, a burnt CD. All the stuff was out of order. I would put it on, and it just feels like New York. And Requiem for a Dream is set in New York. The album is sort of about just young kids getting in trouble. The two just went together so well that I can't ever imagine reading that book and not listening to it on repeat while I listen to it or while I read it. And every time I listen to the album, which is frequently, I think of the book. If you ever read Requiem for a Dream, and you listen to music while you read, I highly recommend putting on the Strokes' first album. The next one that I want to talk about is a book that I read, I believe, last year or the year before. Anyways, it's The Executioner Song by Norman Mailer. I don't know if a lot of people are going to read this, but it's really, really good. It's just so well written. It's about a guy. He gets out of prison. He falls in love. He spent more than half of his life in prison and sort of stunted developmentally as well, I think. It's a true story. He then murders people, and it's about his trial. It's about everything leading up to that. It's a really intense book. There are parts of it that are just chilling and really intense. If you enjoyed In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, you will probably really enjoy this book as well. It's just a lot longer. With this book, most of what I listened to was this guy, Bill Callahan. So Bill Callahan, he writes really sparse songs that feel just very open, and I feel like the painting used on this cover is pretty evocative of what his sound sounds like. It's just this very open, sparse feel. He's got this really kind of gravelly, harsh almost voice, but still kind of pretty. And that's sort of the tone and feel of Executioner Song. It's set sort of in the desert, so it's just got that open, expanded feel. Prose is very sparse, and all the adjectives and stuff that I would use to describe this book, I would also use to describe this album. So they go so well together. I can't imagine reading this without putting on Bill Callahan, and Bill Callahan sometimes creeps me out because of stuff in this book and the songs that were on while weird creepy stuff happens in this book. I'm not going to talk a lot about other pairings that I've made in the past. I haven't had really great connections that feel like they're just always going to be connected in my brain in a while. Those are the most recent two. And I read Requiem for a Dream, forever ago when the first Strokes album came out. It doesn't happen super often, but when it does, it's just really cool. And one thing that I'd like to do is something that I call Music Match, which is if you want to suggest a book or whatever you're reading, and I will try to match some kind of music with it. I don't know if I'd like to do videos about it, if I can get enough recommendations or enough suggestions of books that people want matches for, then I'll do a video about it. I really enjoy kind of pairing music with books. And so if you're a reader who loves music and listens to music while you read, or just want something to go along with a book that you really love, please let me know in the comments or find me on Twitter. Give me some books that you want music matches for, and I will do that for you. And I'm really stoked to do that. So yeah, and also when I do reviews and stuff, I'm going to put usually in the comments what the soundtrack was for those books. If there wasn't one, then there won't be any music listed. But if there's stuff that I'm listening to while I read, then I'm going to put that in the comments for reviews and stuff. So thanks a lot for watching, and see you later.